Welcome back to Asean Newsroom. Portuguese opposition leader Pedro Passos Coelho led Socialist Prime Minister José Sócrates in poll heading into yesterday's election, with seat projections showing he may be able to force a majority with another party. The new leaders will have to enact budget cuts required in a 78 billion euro international bailout, even as unemployment climbs and the economy shrinks. Sócrates' minority government failed in March after lawmakers rejected deficit-cutting proposals as he struggled to avoid a bailout. With debt and borrowing costs surging, Portugal followed Greece and Ireland in seeking a rescue, bringing to 256 billion euro the aid provided to stamp out the sovereign debt crisis. Another minority administration may threaten Portugal's ability to cut spending and receive rescue funds. Passos Coelho said in Oporto that Portugal needs an absolute majority in these elections. The Social Democrats, led by Passos Coelho, and the People's Parties, the biggest and second biggest of opposition parties, have said they support the rescued while blaming Sócrates for having to seek it.
A good news for the Greeks, as the European Union is preparing a new package for the Greece. European Union officials will focus on preparing a new aid package for Greece that includes a voluntary role for investors after the EU and the International Monetary Fund approves the fifth installment of Greece's 110 billion euro or 161 billion US dollars bailout. Luxembourg Prime Minister Jean-Claude Juncker said that he expected the Eurogroup to agree to additional financing to be provided to Greece under strict conditionality. This conditionality will include private sector involvement on a voluntary basis. Papandreou agreed to 78 billion euros in additional austerity measures and asset sales through 2015 to secure the 12 billion euro bailout payment and meet conditions for receiving an additional rescue package. He agreed to make significant cuts in public sector employment and establish an agency to manage accelerated asset sales, according to a statement released in Athens on June 3rd. The plan is fueling popular opposition and protests across Greece. Greek bonds gained on the prospect of a new aid plan, with the yield on the country's two-year notes falling to 172 basis points yesterday to 22.8%, the lowest since April 20th. Disagreements came at the end of a week when Greece's fiscal crisis worsened enough for Moody's Investors Service to raise the probability of a default to 50%.
The International Air Transport Association, or IATA, is expected to slash profit forecasts as the high price of oil raises costs. In March, IATA set its 2011 forecast at 8.6 billion US dollars, which was a 52% drop from the year before. It now says even that looks optimistic. The other factor hurting the industry is the nuclear disaster in Japan. The global airline industry is meeting on Monday in Singapore for the IATA annual general meeting. The association, which has 230 member airlines, will announce its latest forecast at that time. Last year, the airline industry recovered faster than expected from the global recession, posting a profit of 18 billion US dollars. Giovanni Bisingnani, head of IATA, told the BBC in Singapore that after a good year, this year started in a terrible way. He blamed unrest in the Middle East, an increase in the price of fuel, and the ongoing nuclear disaster in Japan for the industry's bleak outlook. IATA used an average oil price of $6.96 US dollar for a barrel from Brent crude when calculating its profits forecast in March. Since then, oil prices have passed 110 US dollar a barrel. According to IATA, a $1 per barrel increase means a jump of 1.6 billion US dollar in costs. Fuel costs will represent 30% of airline expenses in 2011. The March 11 earthquake and tsunami in Japan triggered a crisis at the Fukushima nuclear power plant, which led to a drop in demand for domestic travel in Japan of 31% in April compared with the previous year. Internationally, Japan saw air traffic fall by 20% in April, which has knocked 1% off of global international travel. Mr. Bezzini said that Japan represents 10% of the total industry revenues that will impact strongly.
The Obama administration declines to brand China a currency manipulator while saying China's economy as the world's fastest one is making insufficient progress on letting the yuan rise. The U.S. Treasury Department said that the U.S. believed the economic progress so far was insufficient and that more rapid progress was needed. The yuan's real exchange rate remains substantially undervalued, and the department will continue to closely monitor the pace of appreciation. Charles Schumer, Democrat lawmaker, said the exchange rate gave China an unfair advantage in the global marketplace. China's economy will expand 9.6% in 2011 and 9.5% next year, according to the International Monetary Fund projections it released last month. The Treasury said no major trading partner of the U.S. met the legal standard of improper currency manipulation. Exchange rate flexibility must play an important role in rebalancing China's economy towards domestic demand-led growth. China has allowed the yuan to appreciate by 5.1% against the dollar from June 2010 through the end of April 2011, or at a rate of about 6% per year in nominal terms, the Treasury said. Since inflation in China is higher than it is in the U.S., the yuan has been rising against the dollar at an annual rate of about 9% on a real inflation-adjusted basis.
Sugar exporters in Thailand, the world's second largest shippers, are facing port delays after a record crop. Congestion at ports resulted in vessels lining up to load as much as 400,000 metric tons of sugar, according to Thai Sugar Trading Corp. The country's cane and sugar board said Thailand's sugar output will be 2.7 million tons this year. Their additional 2 million tons seems to be posing more problems rather than alleviating the supply market, as their port's capacity and logistics are limited. While white or refined sugar from mills in Thailand are of bad quality or caked or arriving hot at the ports, citing unidentified local sources. Some exporters have rejected the cargo because it would cake during the journey. To make things worse, it has been raining for a whole week. Thailand produced a record 95.2 million tons of sugarcane in the season from November the 28th to June the 2nd, according to data on the Cane and Sugar Board website. Sugar output climbed to 9.6 million tons from 6.9 million tons last year. Thai shippers export sugar in bulk and bags through 5 berths on the eastern coast of Thailand and in the capital of Bangkok, according to Piramsak Sasuni, Chief Executive Officer of Thai Sugar Trading, the country's largest exporter. A barge carrying 2,400 tons of raw sugar sank in the Japria River on May the 31st and has obstructed the water transport. Rashata Pakafung, head of Marine Office in Ayutthaya Province under state-run Marine Department, said it would take a few days to salvage the barge, paving the way for shipments to resume. Thailand usually remills raw sugar into white sugar. White or refined sugar for August delivery climbed $11.80 or 1.7% to $695.70 a ton. Raw sugar for July delivery rose 0.39 cents or 1.7% to 23.91 cents a pound on ICE futures US in New York.